Wow, women's football weekend is over, and what a hit it was. We saw the Manchester derby take place between Manchester United and Manchester City, of course, but could there be new giants in Manchester? Because United, are looking serious this season. We saw Aston Villa take on Birmingham City at Villa Park. We saw Everton take on Reading, Bristol City take on Tottenham Hotspur, West Ham United take on Brighton, and of course, to round off an action-packed weekend of women's football, we saw the London derby between Arsenal and Chelsea. Now, this game was a very highly anticipated game, as always, and I'm sure as Arsenal fans know, we haven't been the victorious ones in this fixture for a very long time. I say a very long time, but the last time we did beat them was in 2018 with that massive 5-0 win at Kingsmeadow away to Chelsea. I was at that game, and I still can't believe that's the last time we beat Chelsea. Ever since then, it's been a loss. But this time, it was a draw. It was a very, very equal game end to end. Everything you wanted from a London derby, the battles, the duels, the one-on-ones. The only thing it was missing was shots on target and goals. That's the only thing it was missing. It all came to life in the last 10 to 15 minutes. But throughout the game, it was a very, very even battle in the midfield defensively. Now, speaking of defensively, I think I could genuinely say it was a defensive masterclass from both Leah Williamson and Lotta Wubben-Moy, who a very new pairing in the back there, two centre-backs, and they haven't played together there. Lottie is not her natural position, and they done incredibly well, especially in the dying minutes of the game. Leah Williamson saved a goal off the goal line, but throughout the whole 90 minutes, Arsenal, to me, not being biased, looked like the better side, if I'm honest with you. The only key things to point out of the game, as I said, because not much happened in there, was Caitlin Ford almost opening the scoring for both teams. Obviously opening the scoring for Arsenal, where she made that run through the middle, found the space, because as I say, even defensively, Chelsea was so good as well. Millie Bright tightening it up at the back. But Caitlin Ford found a gap in the middle, ran through on goal, but just smacked the crossbar, and it stayed in play. The goalkeeper tipped it over, but it managed to stay in play, and we just couldn't get the goal. But all in all, Arsenal really organised themselves well throughout the whole game. Leah Walty was really just managing that whole midfield area, commanding everyone in their positions. Kim Little being the absolute boss that she is, twisting and turning, even when the referee, in my opinion, wasn't in her favour at some point. I mean, the players that were in the stands, like Sir Jordan Nobbs, Lisa Evans, they were very vocal. And it was like, ref, come on. That's a foul. But I feel like if it wasn't for those players in the stands, I mean, and of course fans that I wish were there, I don't think the referee would have blew her whistle for some of the fouls on the Arsenal players, but fortunately she did. Kim Little, even though she was being tussled to ground, she would always stand strong, twist and turn players, absolute magician in midfield, and keep the ball in play. But those two players in midfield were magnificent. Katie McCabe on the left-hand side was going toe-to-toe with Erin Cuthbert, and it got a bit physical at one point. Very physical, actually, and you could see between them that the fire was just there. And it's just what you want from a London derby. They both wanted to win, and you could see that. I'm sure they shook hands after the game, but throughout the game, they were definitely enemies. We had to wait a long 86 minutes before we saw any goals in the game. Vivian Miedema drove past Millie Bright, running the ball forward. Just what we wanted to see, because there were some times where she would get that ball in that position and Millie Bright would just clear it. You know, Millie Bright is a strong physical defender, and there was pretty much no getting past her. But that chance that Vivian Miedema took, she took it by the throat, because she drove forward, raced down that left-hand side, and placed the ball in the box just in time for Beth Mead, who was charging through the middle and just managed to I say tap it in, but she really just knocked it in, thumped it in with her right shin. And we went 1-0 up, and it was elation in the stands for anyone that was there. Even the broadcasters celebrated. I'm sure you saw it in the highlights. But it was all taken away from Arsenal within 4 minutes, because just after that, Chelsea managed to get the equaliser. At first glance, it looked like Pernille Harder just placed a magnificent ball into the box, which ended up into the back of the net. But on the replay, we realised that when she was placing the ball as a cross, it came off of Lotta, who had a superb performance. And it's crazy, because as I was in the stands, I was at the game. I was fortunate to be at that game. And the announcer had just announced that the player of the match was Lotta. And a few seconds later, she made that error, which I'm sure she'll be gutted about. But I'm sure the players and the rest of the teammates won't put any blame on her for that, because she did the best she could do to kick the ball out of play. But it literally just came off the back of her shin as she was sliding the ball out, and it was the craziest deflection, and it hit the crossbar and went in. Pernille Harder celebrated as if it was her own goal, but I'm sure Chelsea were just elated to get the equaliser, because that now takes their WSL unbeaten run to 27 games in the league. And if that wasn't enough, just moments after that, in stoppage time, Sam Kerr raced through the middle and chipped the goalkeeper, chipped Manuela Zinsberger, and it looked like it was going in, but luckily for Arsenal fans, It just went wide of the post. It could have been 2-1 to Chelsea, but the end result of the game was Arsenal 1, Chelsea 1. I spoke to Joe Montemurro after the game, and of course other journalists spoke to him as well, and they mentioned that he was very vocal on the touchlines for that game. He normally just sits back and relaxes a bit, but for the whole 90 minutes he was up on his feet and extremely vocal, giving instructions to some players in particular. And here's what he had to say about that.
It's the Italian in me. It comes out every once in a while. Look, I think we had a discussion this week as a group, and I just felt that we needed total focus in every moment of the game, because, as I said, Chelsea, the very good team that they are will get you in a moment that you switch off, and I just felt that we needed to keep the energy up and keep the alertness in all moments of the game, Susie. So I was probably a little bit more vocal than I normally are. It might be the new Joe Montemurro.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Pippa.
Just touching back on you being very vocal on the touchline, I noticed that you're giving a lot of tips to both Lotta and Leah Walty to control the game and manage the game, giving them leadership type of advice. Why are those two players in particular?
Well, obviously Lotta is playing, in an area where she hasn't played for us this year. We know she's a centre back. So it was more about just for her to dictate the terms and find the pass to get Leah Walty involved. It was more about that they could have probably just taken a little bit more time in terms of the build-up instead of trying to force it. And we nailed it in the second half, and we nailed it, I think, towards the second part of the first half in regards to that. Here
are a few stats on the game. Arsenal had 55% possession and Chelsea had 45. 11 shots for Arsenal and 9 for Chelsea. Here's the crazy stat. 1 shot on target for Arsenal and 0 for Chelsea. 10 corners for Arsenal and 0 for Chelsea. And it's crazy because in the first half, there was no corners whatsoever. Beth Mead created about 7 out of those 10 corners for Arsenal. One of the chances where she was one-on-one with the keeper, and there was a bit of confusion because Katrine Berger looked completely lost, and if she didn't pick up that ball in time, Beth Mead definitely could have slipped in a goal there, but she managed to earn Arsenal another corner. Beth Mead did player of the match, very well deserved Barclays player of the match, because she did everything in that game and she got the goal. 2 fouls for Arsenal and 14 for Chelsea, and 1 yellow card as well, as G got a booking. And as I was saying, the players that were in the stands was having a go at the ref because G absolutely tore down a player as she was through on goal. Well, after both Arsenal and Chelsea's efforts, they share a point, of course, and that now leaves Arsenal in second place, should I say, on 16 points, just 1 point behind the league leaders at the moment, Manchester United, who had a great game against Manchester City. But before I touch on that, here's what Emma Hayes, manager of Chelsea Women's Football Club, had to say about that game.
Well, the game played out how I thought it would. I've been around the block long enough to say when you play a team that are defeated against Man United and have lost, forgive me if I've got this wrong, 5 out of the last 6 times against us, then at some point their manager was going to get the response he was looking for. I thought Arsenal dominated the second ball. I thought they played their game plan better than we played ours. All of those factors that I've already described, plus a derby game, I think it was an average performance, but an unbelievable point for us. And I'm pleased because these are the games I fear.
Now, Arsenal-Chelsea ended the Women's Football Weekend with a London derby, but the game that kicked off Women's Football Weekend was a Manchester derby between Manchester United and Manchester City. What a game this was, a great advert for women's football. And as I said before, there could be a new giant in town because Man City took the lead with 2 great goals in the first half. And I honestly thought it was Manchester City's game to win. Manchester United have been on great form, of course, unbeaten, top of the league, and beating Arsenal last week 1-0. But the second half was a total game changer. Tobin Heath's goal came from a mistake from Manchester City's defence. She capitalised on that, and what a shot and what a strike. I thought game on, Manchester United could get back in this, but I wasn't particularly sure that they could. But they did. They equalised 2-2 on the day with another goal from Hansen in the 74th minute. Manchester United 2, Manchester City 2. The other results of the weekend are as follows. Aston Villa 0, Birmingham City 1, Everton Women 1, Reading 1, Bristol City 2, Tottenham 2. Do you see the pattern here? Just loads of draws this weekend, lots of draws. But Bristol will be happy with that result because, well, fairly happy because they haven't won a game this season at all. It's been pretty much all L's, but at least they've got a draw. Improvement. And on the final day of Women's Football Weekend, it was West Ham United 0, Brighton and Hove Albion 1, and of course Arsenal 1, Chelsea 1. That is all from me this week on the Women's Football Show. I hope you enjoyed it. I've been Pierre-Emerick, and I will see you next week.
This video is supported by Profit Accumulator. Profit Accumulator helps you to earn extra money by doing something called match betting. Match betting isn't gambling. And when you do it properly, and I mean properly, you can't lose. So get involved right now. Click the link in the description and sign up to Profit Accumulator right now.